cookie cake problem today to explore inverse relationships. I need you to go ahead and grab one of the plastic baggies that was in the Edpuzzle bucket, the one that has the fraction circle pieces. This problem is going to help you review inverse relationships in fractions. And when we're talking about inverse relationships, we're talking about the number of partitions and how big or how small the pieces become when you do those partitions. Remember, partitions means what? Partitions, partir, partitions to cut. So Nicole and Cindy wanted to partition a cookie cake to get the biggest slices. Cindy said to partition the cookie cake into eighths. Nicole said to partition the cookie cake into fourths. Which girl is correct? Use the cookie cake pictures below to justify your work. Remember, we're also going to be using those fraction circles to help us visualize and help us see the relationship between the two types of fractions. Okay, the second time around that I'm going to be reading, I'm also going to be circling important information. Here we go. Nicole and Cindy wanted to partition a cookie cake to get the biggest slices. Cindy said, oh, wait a second, let's use biggest slices. So I'm going to circle biggest slices because that's going to be something that is going to be important in this problem. So we're going to circle biggest slices. Cindy said to partition the cookie cake into eighths. So Cindy wants to partition her cookie cake into eighths. I'm going to go ahead and down here, I'm going to label Cindy and I'm going to label eighths. Okay. Nicole said to partition the cookie cake into fourths. So Nicole is saying, no, my biggest slice is going to be if I partition it into fourths. So let's see if she is correct. Go ahead and circle your important information. And what are we going to label Nicole's cookie cake? Fourths. Okay. Which girl is correct? We want to know who's going to have the correct, who's going to have the correct answer. Now, what do they mean by correct? At the beginning of the problem, we were saying they wanted to partition the cookie cake to get the biggest slices. So what the problem is asking is, which girl is correct when they say, I've got the biggest slice? So go ahead and on your paper, you're going to go ahead and draw your window pane. And we're looking to see who is correct. Who has the biggest slice? Now notice I didn't write who's correct. I wrote biggest slice because to me, that's going to help me answer this question better than saying who is correct. When I answer who has the biggest slice, I'm also answering the question who is correct. Okay, now I'm ready to partition. Eighths has how many equal parts? Badia. 8/8 makes a whole. Sorry. And then fourths is going to be what? How many equal parts for fourths? Badia. 4/4 makes a whole. Now I'm ready to partition. Now remember, again, partition means partir. But partition in fractions doesn't just mean make a random line like that one. No. Partitions means that you're going to cut it, but you're going to cut it to make sure that you have equal parts of a whole. So the first one that we're going to look at is Cindy. Cindy has eighths. I'm going to zoom in because I want to make sure that you see exactly how I do this. Okay, here we go. So eighths. I would suggest that you use a different color for this. So go ahead and grab either a marker or a color pencil or a crayon, whatever you have available. And I'll try to put some in the bucket to look in the bucket. Cindy has eighths. We've already discussed eighths is going to be 8 equal parts. So I'm looking for 8 equal parts. The first way that I want you to partition, and don't go ahead of misuse, do it the same way that I am doing it. This is to help you practice. The first way that you're going to do it is with a plus sign. And what I mean by that is first you're going to cut it right down the middle, partition right down the middle, top to bottom, and then side to side, right in the middle. If you look at it now, that's going to be 4 equal pieces, but we want 8 equal pieces. So the way that you do the rest is you make an X. Look for Miss Hughes's drawing first, and then when I'm done, then you try. So you're going to make it that a little bit better, right? There and there. Start at the center if you need to. There we go. Much better. So we have 8 equal slices. Nicole said she wants to partition the cookie cake into fourths. So we're going to go to Nicole and partition hers into fourths. 4 equal parts. So same thing. It has to be, when you partition, it has to be equal parts. Otherwise, it doesn't count. So you have to do it exactly how Miss Hughes is doing it. So look first, and then you do it too. I draw, then you draw. Fourths. So for fourths, you're going to partition it top to bottom, right down the middle, and then side to side, right down the middle. Same color, what you're going to do is you're going to shade. And what does shade mean? Good. Shade means to color. I'm going to color or shade 1/8 for Cindy and 1/4 for Nicole. So there's my 1/8 for Cindy. And I'm going to do it on the same side so I can compare correctly. And 1/4 for Nicole. Once I've shaded in 1/8 and 1/4, it is easy to see who's got the bigger slice. When you're comparing eighths and fourths, who is bigger? Nicole. Her slice is bigger. And Cindy's slice is smaller. My answer is Nicole. Nicole was correct. When you partition the cookie cake into fourths, you're going to get a bigger slice than when you partition it into eighths. So at the bottom, I'm going to write fourths. Now, the question said to also justify your work. Justify means to explain. So fourths, why? Because fourths is bigger than eighths. And how did we solve this? I labeled and shaded. Here really quickly to close our lesson. We were looking for who has the biggest slice. Which girl was correct when they said, I'm going to get the biggest slice? And in this case, it was Nicole, because when we looked at the different sizes, we realized that 1/4 is bigger than 1/8. I want you to remember when we were doing the mini lesson at my teacher table, we talked about that relationship. When you compare eighths, fourths, and halves, eighths is always the smallest. Fourths is bigger than eighths, but then half is bigger than fourths and bigger than eighths. And if you forget, you can always look to the anchor chart. And I want you to point right now. This is your little quick exit ticket. Point to the anchor chart. All right, you guys go ahead and erase the work on the sleeve. Put everything back into the Edpuzzle bucket and leave it at that table. Okay, if your timer has not gone off, you may do an extra activity for 2D or 3D at the Makerspace or at Miss Jaw's table. If you are out of time, go ahead and close out the Edpuzzle, log out, and leave the computer for the next person. Please make sure that you're cleaning up after yourself. All right, guys. Thanks for reviewing inverse relationships with Miss Hughes.